Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of the Next Level Podcast. This is of course brought to you by Gush Cloud in partnership with the National Youth Council, and it's part of the Now 2021 event that is happening at the end of this year, 27 and 28 November. Mark your calendars. Eric Nam is going to be the headliner for the event, so make sure you get your tickets. Now, this is the podcast where we talk to industry professionals to get insights on their journey, as well as tips on how you can bring yourself to the next level. Now, joining me today is the one, the only Aiken.
Hello.
What's up? Thanks for saying yes to this podcast.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
You know, like this podcast has been like an amazing journey so far. Like I've been speaking to people that I've been looking up to, like peers in the industry. And for your journey, I'm super interested because like I feel like you are kind of like one of the few people who embody what new media success can look like for creators, you know? So excited to explore what that looks like and how behind the scenes we can maybe dive in a little bit more to your headspace on that.
Yes.
Okay, so maybe let's get everyone on track because after all, the show targets like young people with all sorts of interests. So maybe you can give us a little introduction of what you do today.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm primarily a content creator with Night Owl Cinematics, and under Night Owl Cinematics there is also Food King. So I host and produce Food King, and I think this year as well, for the last 1 year, I've dabbled into like account management as well. So the more businessy end of things, like servicing clients, doing sales, servicing the clients, making sure that the project is like complete from start to finish.
Yep.
So essentially that's what I do. But at the heart of it, I think like I'm a creative. I love to create content.
Nice. Okay. So my golden question for almost everyone that is in the industry is like, did you plan to come into this industry or was it by chance?
I didn't plan. So I was working at the airport for about $10 per hour, and then like my poly fees were like 2,000 plus lah.
Okay.
And like I come from a lower income single parent family, so I was like, I need a job that actually pays me more than maybe $600-700 a month because I need to pay for school. So someone in my church said, hey, you are quite funny when you give the announcements. Why don't you try auditioning for like a TV show? So I was like, do they pay? Then I was like, okay, as long as it's more than $10 an hour, I'm going to do it. So I auditioned anything that said like male Chinese 20, I would go. And so my first audition was for a McDonald's commercial, which was in Chinese for the filet of fish. And I absolutely like bombed it. Like it was horrible because my Chinese is bad.
Okay.
Then within 2 weeks though, like I just kept going for auditions, and within 2 weeks I booked my first show on Octo. Previously known as Kid Central if you're old. So I became the main host of a like science show. Teaching people, like it's a bit of like a mad science show that was a lot of fun. And that was the first time in my life I felt like, wow, this is something that I actually can do, and I started to like have confidence in myself.
Right.
So it was by chance, I would say.
Okay. So how did your introduction to NOC come about?
So introduction to NOC was because I've met D, who was in 987 with me.
Right.
And then after a while, he was kind of like, hey, the 987 thing isn't really working out. NOC is looking for a food show host, and I think you'd be great for it. So I was like, yeah, sure. So I tried it out. Before you know it, like we just got on board together to create Food King.
Right.
And I wish I could, say that it was my idea or anything, but it wasn't. So I guess Ryan, Sylvia, and Dee at that time had thought about this concept called Food King, centered around the fact that Ryan just likes to recommend food to people. Yeah, we just started the show, and then before you knew it, like I started to produce it because I realized that beyond just sitting there and eating, if I get to control and create the content, it will be a more impactful experience for myself and for the viewers. Yeah,
100%. I think a lot of people don't realize like the work that goes into like behind the scenes, right?
Yeah.
Like, even this podcast itself, like literally behind the cameras right now, there's like 5 other people.
Exactly.
Like all masked, by the way. So don't complain about us. But yes, like it takes a lot. It takes a whole village basically to put things together.
Yeah.
I want to ask you, like when it comes to YouTube, when it comes to content creation, it is. I mean, now it's a bit more accepted, right? Like in the past, people would be like, oh, what is this? And like, can you actually make a career out of this?
Yeah.
Like I would think that when you first entered it, it was still kind of like a growing space.
Yes.
Right. Were you worried, or were you kind of like ready to take on?
Yeah. So it's always been a bit of a very weird space for me because I've sort of been in media in general, previously more traditional platforms, right? But I did it to fund my education. So I studied and I worked at the same time. And it was always a means to like pay for my tuition fees for uni and blah, blah, blah. To me, I had already, right before I joined NOC, I had already given up on the dream because I had worked for that time about 6-7 years. I had won one competition, came in runner-up in the other, and there was still not enough to sustain me, and there was not enough like people that really believed in me. People started to drop me, companies dropped me. So I was just like, this really isn't working out. I had one agency, I won't name names, but called me down. So I was very happy. I was like, oh my God, you called me down, maybe you want to sign me, right? Call me down for 1 hour just to tell me why they wouldn't sign me. So I was like, okay, this is not working out. And I was like, once I get my degree, I'm going to leave. At the same time when I graduated, Food King happened, and it was kind of like my last shot. So I always told them like, if this doesn't work out, I'm done. My degree is in psychology. I'll probably go and do something that's a bit more social work related and get out of here. Yeah.
Understood. Right. So being in this industry, I think the term influencer is used a lot, especially when you're on like the digital space.
Yeah.
As in, it's kind of like a weird term because like we work in an industry where it is a job, right? Like people have their income based on being an influencer and whatnot. And then there are obviously people who still like kind of mock the term. So they're like, who are these people even influencing, right?
Yeah.
So was there at any point in time, because I consider you as an influencer, so like was there at any point of time where you realized that, hey, actually like the platform I have, the influence I have is actually tangible, it's actually real?
I have no problems being called an influencer. I think like for me, especially with what I do, I really like to keep it about the work. The personal stuff, I choose very carefully what I put out. So my mom likes to join me, so I don't mind putting that out. But there's a whole lot I don't put out as well. So I'm very, very intentional about the content that I put out. What really, really, really made me realize about impact, right, was when I went to Phuket. So I've got this pad thai store that's my favorite pad thai store, and I popped over on the travel log, right? I just sort of introduced it on the just to say, hey, this is my favorite pad thai store. I've been eating here for like years. So the video came out. And then a year later, I came to the store. She had double the space. And when she saw me, because she doesn't have my number or anything, I'm just like a customer. She came and she hugged me and she kissed me. And she was like, thank you so much. Thank you so much for doing the video. And I couldn't believe it. So I said, no, there's no way this is me. Yeah. She said, it's you. I asked the customers and she said like, most of them said they're from Singapore and Malaysia and they came here because they saw your video. And as I was like riding my scooter back, I was thinking, this makes a difference to people. And this is just one of the stories, but there are many hawkers that we help. So all the hawkers that we feature on Food King are no charge at all. Sometimes I joke and say like we're a bit of like Robin Hood because we get the money from like clients, right, who can afford it. But whenever we do a hawker episode, nobody pays, which means our company, we lose money in that sense, right? But we still put it out there because we really want to help and we really love celebrating hawker culture and the hard work. So you would hear like story after story about, hey, after you all feature the show, feature us on the show, like there's queues, there's results, and it makes a positive impact on the business. And that's when I started to realize that actually what we do really changes and affects lives,
100%. I also know for a fact that, like after, once you see how like the stores react to having celebrities come over, like Food King is literally like something that they are so proud to put on their stores now. Yeah, so that shows the impact,
Yeah, very, very sweet. Like I love seeing that because like, oh my gosh, we are like just like this little show on YouTube just saying like what we really feel about food, and we're not even chefs, That's why sometimes I'm a bit paiseh. Like I don't even cook, then I talk so much cock,
Yeah. But I want to talk about now like the industry, right? So what are some maybe traits that are important for a person to thrive in this industry? Because clearly listening to you talk, like, you see how the things that you say, the things that you do have impact. Yeah. People listen to what you say. So like what are like, when you look at it from the other side of the lens, right? Like what are some traits that a person must embody?
Wow. I think you've got to be very clear in your mission. So I think for Food King, right, the mission is very, very clear to me. It's like we really want to help businesses.
Okay.
We really want to help them. And I mean, there are some that, of course, we are very honest to say, hey, actually, I don't like this food, and it doesn't help them. But we hope that the genuine feedback as well can give them something to take away from positively. I think you've got to be very clear in your mission. You've got to be very clear in your vision and your values. So what are some things that I will never compromise on? That's the line that I draw. That for sure is something that you've got to be clear before going in, so that you're not too swayed by what people say, what people don't say. At the end of the day, if I'm being completely honest, I think we need to take ourselves less seriously. Sometimes the people fight about food very intensely in the comment section.
Right.
And when I take a step back, I need to realize that this is a first world privilege that we can even fight about food.
Yeah.
My mom and I, we support a children's home in Nepal for since 2013. And I don't know if they're going to be having many articles about where's the best, this and that.
Yeah.
I always remember that it's a privilege that we get to even discuss food. So we don't have to get ourselves too riled up over it. Yeah. Some people feel very strongly about food.
I know.
Right?
It's our national pastime.
Yeah.
It's the only thing that Singaporeans can talk about is food.
How dare you say that char kway teow is the best? No, then it gets really intense. Yeah.
100%. Was there, okay, so after doing this for years and years, is there one big life lesson or big takeaway that you can say that I've learned after being in this industry for this long?
Wow, big takeaway. I would say you have got to be very, very anchored. There are so many voices. There's so many opinions, and not just from the public when they see your video, but from people on your team, people above you, people around you. I think you've just got to really, really be anchored and clear. And I would say as well, now there's so much talk about mental health and boundaries. I think if I could go back in time and change something, I would be clearer and stronger about my boundaries in terms of what I'm willing to do and not do, say and not say. And as much as I say that, I also have had certain boundary lines that I've kept in place that I'm happy about. But I would say you've got to, and some things, it's very hard to learn unless you go through it. But I would say I would be tougher on myself to stick to those values and those boundary lines. Yeah.
So, of course, a lot of our listeners tuning in are people who are either going to be graduating soon or have just graduated, first-time jobbers. So, I would think that there are going to be a bulk of them who are maybe interested in joining the media industry.
Yeah.
However, I think our industry is very interesting because it is one of those few industries where it's very public facing.
Yes.
So people will always have this perception of what the media industry is, right?
Yeah.
But they wouldn't know what goes behind the scenes.
Oh, yeah.
So what are some things that prevalent behind the scenes that people should know about if they want to join this industry?
I think you've got to be very, very, very strong. You've got to be strong mentally. You've got to be resilient. You've got to love the work so much that you would put in the hard work, I think about the work that I do. I've hosted every single one of the 200 plus episodes of Food King because I love what I do, but also because I wanted to be consistent. But then there's a behind the scenes aspect as you are saying about, right, which is just so much work that goes on behind the scenes. You have to be so strong to be able to handle every aspect of it, and then the public facing part of it. I remember, if I'm being very honest with you, I remember there was a time this year where I was really struggling with anxiety. And at first, if I were being honest, right, everyone was talking about anxiety or depression like it was some buzzword until it happened to me. And I remember I was at a shoot, right, and I had to go for a morning shoot. The shoot was happening at 9 a.m. I remember that right before they call action, right, I was feeling the anxiety build up in me. I was feeling very, very anxious, worried. I just felt horrible. But the moment they say action, what I need to deliver is, hi guys. And I have a duty to the brand. I have a duty as a host. I have a duty as a producer to get the job done because this is my job. You have to be so strong to be able to, hi guys, when you're about to have a panic attack, And that is something that I had to learn. And once I did it, I can leave the shoot going also man, I was strong today because I overcame that. Yeah. These are things no one will know. You watch a video, oh, he's happy. Every video I'm happy, 200 plus video, I'm super happy. When am I just there horrible? We go through the worst things off camera. Everyone will know about different things that we've gone through over the years. But it is my professional duty to be hi guys, just for this episode, I've got to give you what I need to professionally lah. Yeah.
So that comes from like mental strength, I would say.
Yeah.
100%. Now, when we look at the industry, right, it is so fast changing today. You know, of course, I would say that like new media like YouTube, podcasts, right? Like they are really, really changing the landscape of media. Are you worried that like, you know, as how new media has kind of like not really replaced, but like become such a tangible, big replacement, right? In a sense, like alternative, I would say, maybe not replacement, alternative to traditional media. Are you scared that maybe like the next thing will come very, very soon and then now you're going to be displaced as well?
Wow, good question. Okay, maybe because I'm not that like savvy or whatever, right? I really don't project so far. So I'm just like, if what I have now is what I have now, I need to do my due diligence to the best of my ability for what happens now. But I do feel the pressure. So when TikTok came and everybody was on TikTok, I felt like I needed to go on TikTok, right? And I don't just need to go on TikTok to watch stuff to be, you know, updated, but I need to be now a content creator on TikTok.
Right.
I did feel the pressure. And so like, I think I did a few TikToks that was just like, okay. But then I still had to just realize that I'm so tired, I'm so burnt out sometimes. Let me just focus on what is available now and then let's see how it goes lah. Yeah.
Got it.
But it could change overnight. That's the scary thing.
Yeah.
But that's also the fun thing because now I primarily consume content mostly on YouTube.
I think it's something that I think a lot of people, it's kind of like at the back of your mind, right? It's like, what's going to be next? Like, can I survive if let's say that becomes the new thing?
Yeah.
You know? So it's definitely like something that people in the industry are discussing for sure. Previously, we did mention about influencers, right? So maybe now let's switch the perspective a little bit and talk about like public figures as a whole.
Okay.
Because we talk about like the switch in like traditional to new media, which also means that now, you know, rather than people getting their values from like, let's say 9 p.m. Channel 8 shows, right? Some people still watch, yes, but a lot of the kids today now consume content, like social media content, whether it's like Instagram posts, whether it's TikTok videos and whatnot. So the difference is that back then it was a big organization producing mass content, like mass produced shows that will weave in like moral values and whatnot. Whereas today, like there's not really one body or doing that, right? It's many, many different people. So do you think that it is an obligation for content creators perhaps to be a bit more responsible online?
I do think that we have a responsibility to steward the influence that we have. To what extent, I don't know. Because you could take that idea and bring it up to say that I'm going to, you know, like fight for everything or I'm going to cancel people because I believe that's the right thing to do. So I would say like to measure that out and to scope it out. What is your impact? What is your social responsibility that you want to take on? So for me, that's why I say like, you know, be very clear about your mission because for me, once I know like, okay, Food King exists to impact the local food scene, viewers and hawkers and restaurateurs, whatever, I can zoom in on that and focus on that. But I really do think that there is a social responsibility. I don't agree with the fact that you are like, oh, okay, I'm a social media content creator. I do have influence and views, but I'm not a role model. I just want to conveniently. You can't say that they are not. You cannot like take that out. It's not possible.
Yeah, agree. You talked about purpose and mission, right? So I think a lot of people struggle to find that purpose. You know, or even if you, let's say I go up to someone today and I say like, can you start thinking about your purpose? They'll just be like, how do I go about that? Right? So like, it seems like yours is very clear, you know, like with Food King. So was there kind of like an exercise or was there kind of like a list of questions or key questions that you asked in order to find what that purpose was?
Right. So I would say don't stress out so much about this. Why? Because we didn't start out Food King to be like, this is our vision statement, mission statement. No. But as I, as a host and a producer, began to do the work, I realized that the change was tangible, the change was positive, the change was impactful. And then we sort of went like, let's use this. For me, that's what drives the work behind it. But it was really a result of like passion. It was a result of I need to earn money, so I'm going to use my ability to find this thing. It didn't start from a grand vision. It started from me needing to earn money to pay for my school fees, but evolved into this vision of like, oh, this is the change we can actually make. So I would say like it may not be a starting point, and it's good to have one if you do already have, but I for one just discovered it along the way.
Right.
Yeah.
So obviously you work with a team, right?
Yes.
So one of the questions that I asked like our previous guest for this podcast as well was, as an individual, once you have your purpose, once you have your goal, it's very clear what you want to do and how you're going to do it. But then how do you align your team with that purpose, right? So how do you make sure that everybody understands what the team, the company, what the project is working towards, and have them believe in it?
Right. So I think that comes in 2 levels. That's really quite interesting. So for example, I've got a team like Charmaine and Isaac that I think the public knows as well. Charmaine and Isaac are really amazing like videographers and editors. So how can we empower the team to be like, let's put our skills in the same way I can put my hosting or producing skills to the table, right? How can they bring what they have to the table to really impact or to run with the mission? So what's really cool is like after a certain shoot or after, we hear about these stories or like the impact that we made, we share it with the team so that they know that, hey, actually like really what we do, right, it's not just for content's sake, but we really are achieving this and this and this, and it's really impacting this and this and this. So it's really just about celebrating the wins together, communicating those wins, and sharing that as a team lah. Yeah, on a very personal level, but then on a very like team level as well. Yeah,
100%. Now the thing with being in new media, being a content creator, is that I think you alluded to it as well. Like you have to wear many hats.
Yeah.
So you kind of like are producer. You kind of are your own like script writer. You are the talent. Sometimes you have to edit as well. So it's like and then that is just one part of it.
Yeah.
The other part now is that now you have to work with a team. So there's kind of like the team element.
Yes.
Right. The thing I realize is that a lot of young people now are put in positions of leadership because of such dynamics, right? So how has that experience been like for you? Like having to lead people, but perhaps that are not that far off in terms of age with you, but then having to be kind of like the leader. Yeah.
Wow, this is one of the hardest things I've ever had to do professionally. I think like you can learn hosting, you can not learn, you can like have a knack for it and whatever, but leadership is something that is not taught often enough. And not just that, like if you are middle management, it's hard because you are between your boss and the team below you, you know. You've got to be that middleman, you've got to effectively communicate what upper management wants them to know and then inspire them and all of that. It's been really hard, if I'm being honest, because I'm the kind of leader, right, who I cannot just like, it's all work. Or like I'm very clear about my heart and like my heart boundary. I can't do that. I'm a leader that's a bit more personal. So I relate with people, I invest in people, I try my best to communicate, to ask them beyond their professional goals, but some of their personal goals, like stuff like that. Like I try and lead with my heart, but it's been difficult because I think it's just the nature of like human relating and all of that. So leadership is a whole other thing where I would say like if you're in that position, and for me the learning curve this year was very steep. I had to sort of like equip myself, listen to podcasts, learn about what does good management and leadership looks like. And many people, if I'm being honest, many people may not want to be leaders, and that's okay. But if you do, then there is a lot to learn, and it's a never-ending journey of learning.
What is one thing that you had to figure out along the way when it comes to like leading a team?
Something that I really, really struggled with was maybe I'm a bit like emotional. So I'm just like, how do you separate the two between like professional and just personal, right? I don't think that they are ever truly separate. Work affects your life affects your work. So it's for me, like I really struggled with that. I struggled with like maintaining like what was scary for me was through leadership, I've learned a lot about myself. Instead of just saying, oh, these people are like that, blah, blah, blah. Wow, leadership reveals so much in me. So number one, this year I learned that I'm very, very afraid of conflict. And number two, I'm a people pleaser. I'm a nice guy. And it's not that I didn't know. I just didn't know to this extent. I didn't know that it's to a point where it might affect and might negatively affect somebody. So I realized that like, without going too deep into therapy or anything, but like I was so afraid of conflict. I was so afraid to say, to confront, because to me, like in my world, like being safe is being nice and being accepted. And that was a very hard lesson to learn, like these two things, that I was a people pleaser and that I am afraid of confrontation, and then how can I work on that as a person lah.
I mean, obviously different people have different leadership styles. So if you're saying that you're kind of like the nice boss or the nice leader, right? Like then how do you make sure that the team like is on track? Because obviously the role of a manager is to make sure like you whip the team back, like you know, to make sure that things are moving, things are going. Sometimes naturally things won't be on par, and then you have to take that leadership role to be like, hey, I think we need to buck up. Like is that difficult for you, and like how do you like navigate that?
You know, I love the work and I take the work very seriously. So I think there are certain standards that need to be upheld. More and more, I don't struggle with communicating those things, you know. I think as a leader, you just have to learn that communication is key and it's okay. You know, and at first it was scary, but the more you do, it's like exposure therapy, right? The more you do, it's like, okay, the more I communicate, it's going to yield better results. It's going to be better for that individual and myself as well. Yeah.
Got it. So Aiken, I want to ask you when it comes to navigating this industry as a business person, right? So here's the thing that I realized, because I like kind of planned to enter this industry. So I had, after I would say, army. During the army, I was like, I actually really enjoy the media industry. I've always kind of like leaned towards entertainment.
Right.
So that's when I realized that, okay, maybe it's time for me to enter, right? I wanted to enter as kind of like the behind the scenes person.
Really?
Yes.
And you always knew?
Yeah. So I've actually, a dream was kind of like to be a writer, either be a journalist or magazine writer. And then like, I don't know how, but like all the opportunities just came by, and then now I'm kind of like doing what I do. But here's the thing, like I had 4 years to prepare to enter this industry. And the thing is that what I realized was that a lot of the things I had to figure out on my own still after entering, right? So I want to ask, in your perspective, like what are some things that you had to learn when it comes to like navigating business in media?
Ooh, this one is tough. This one is tough because I think, okay, like when you say business, media, like I think of money straight up, right? So like my first show that I did, I asked for like X amount. That was very, very happy already lah, because you know I'm making $10 an hour, right? I always didn't realize like I've always sold myself short. And I don't know if it was because of a lack of confidence or you know, scared to confront or argue, right? That I didn't go for it. So I would say my experience has been very, very I've been very blessed because, for example, during my first gig, right, the owner of the production house actually said, I'm going to match your pay with the co-host.
Okay.
Because you are doing the same job. And I just felt like that kind of integrity, because he can just cut me for cheaper and I would have been very happy already. But like that was very kind of him. So over the years, I had to learn what it meant to have value, what it meant to stand by that value as well. So I think when it comes to business, when you were talking about business, right, transacting and all that, it really comes down to value. What can I offer you that you'll be willing to pay for? And what am I willing to take that will also be valuable to me to do that?
100%. Now, as a public figure, right? So again, back to the many hats that you have to wear, right? Sometimes then now you have to be like kind of like the one dealing with business as well in the back end. So like, does that ever complicate things because people know you as a public figure and then kind of like have maybe expectations when they enter like business meetings with you?
For the most part, in my experience, it has helped. I think like when people see me on the Zoom call, they see me in the meeting, right? I'm there not just because it's my job, but I'm there because I actually care about the campaign. I care about how this project is going to turn out. And I think that when people see that, they feel that, oh, hey, this guy is sincere, you know? Like when I used to go down for business meetings, right, my clients would tell me that they are shocked that I'm there. Then I'm like, why? Because this is the project that I care about. I care about your business. I care about bringing value to your brand. What? So it's really not a big deal that I'm there. Like, I'm just here to see how we can make all of this work out for both our good. So I feel like that is something that like it was not a thing for me, non-negotiable.
Right. Actually, just to add on to that question and circling back to what we were discussing earlier, like is it difficult maybe to manage a team being a public figure as well?
Okay, so far, it hasn't been that much of a difference to me, or maybe I don't know lah. Maybe I'm not in the best position to say, but for example, I had a new team member earlier this year. So I think she mentioned something like, oh, hey, by the way, it's quite cool to have you as my boss, like that kind of thing.
Right.
But along with that, it's just work all. And I think they feel the same way. There's no glitz behind. Like I'm on the Zoom with like my horrible like home clothes and like, hi guys, like wow. Then they're like, hey, you never sleep last night. It's very, there is no glamour aside from the camera when we're not on shoot.
Yeah. Okay, so you mentioned glamour. And I would think that a lot of people like glamorize media industry.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, it is glitz and glamour lah.
Yeah.
As in what we see, right? So, what were perhaps some of the things that, like maybe a reality check that people might need when it comes to the media industry?
Okay, so I've been in traditional media, i.e. MediaCorp and blah blah blah, your big like conglomerates, and then I've been on a like sort of like SME, NOC, that kind of thing, right? I need to tell you, like, it's really not as glamorous. Okay, so first, a very simple thing. In MediaCorp, right, like when I'm an artist, I can go at a certain call time and I can just sit there and somebody will do my makeup for me. So when I was in NOC, and when I was like 4-5 years ago, I was still in my 20s, so I was like, hey, okay lah, my skin looks good, no eye bags and all of that, right? And we use like insane lights. Like our lights are like, I don't know, like you can light up a football field. I remember Ryan saying that to me. This light, you can light up the football field. That light is on my face. So every pore, every eye bag in 4K definition. So after a while, I had to learn how to do makeup.
Right.
And it wasn't hey, you very hiao. It's my client is paying money for this episode and I'm not going to go on the camera looking like I did not sleep last night.
Right.
I had to learn how to do my own makeup. And it was just stuff like that you have to realize it's not about whether you're vain, it's about professionalism. A certain kind of the way you dress, the certain appearance that you want. These are the things that your client are actually paying for. So the glamour part also, it caused me to learn another new skill. And I would think like if you are in it for the glamour, then you're not going to last very long because there's not much glamour to it.
Right.
Yeah.
Literally only the final product is glamorous, is it?
Yeah. Really only the final product. The road to getting there is also very arduous. Yeah.
Now, I want to ask, okay, so obviously, if let's say there's a young person today that says, I want to be a content creator or I want to start my own media business in time to come, like what is that starting point for them? Like what are things that they need to think about and need to do?
Okay, so I always say, right, just find that one thing that you are very good at or you're reasonably good at that people are like, wow, this guy can or this girl can, like with that one thing. So how I knew that was very interesting. The first Octo show I did, right, when I finished a take, the director is a British guy. So he said to me, can you just for fun do this take in a British accent and like add your own flavor to it? So I just did it for fun. And when we finished that take and he said cut, all of them clapped. And that was the first time, like I said, I was like, maybe there's something here that I actually can do.
Right.
And then I just like zone in so hard on my strengths. So how can I be a better host? How can I be a communicator? How can I blah, blah, blah. And then that was the sort of starting point for me.
Right. So for a moment, I was like, oh, British accent is your strength? No.
No. Yeah.
Hosting.
Like hosting lah, yeah.
Okay, nice. So if let's say you were to speak to 23-year-old Aiken, or when he or like whenever you first entered the industry, right?
Yeah.
After so many years in it, after having gone through like many rounds of reflections and whatnot, like what is one thing or what is like a golden tip that you would give to young Aiken?
I would say don't worry. I think I was so worried. I was just so worried all the time. I think I have an anxious disposition, right? So I'm always stressed out. I'm always like taking myself too seriously. I would let myself know to have a little bit more fun and just really enjoy the ride. Of course, like hindsight is 2020, but I think the worry for me made it less enjoyable. Yeah, and I think I would have been a better host and presenter if I really just was like, don't worry, it's all gonna work out. Yeah. But having said that, it is part of the journey because if you're a freelancer, you will worry like, when's my next engagement gonna come? Who's gonna book me? You could go for 10,000 auditions but only book one or not book any at all. So I had to come to a place where I'm like, okay, if it's not for me, it's not for me, and I can just let it go. It's okay. Yeah. So I would say don't worry so much. Enjoy the ride. Yeah.
Nice. So obviously with career, right? The thing with like traditional routes is that you kind of know what the goals are.
Yeah.
So for example, I need to get like this particular position after
Yeah.
5 years. I want to become a manager after 10 years. So when it comes to the media industry, like what are such milestones? And obviously different people will have different answers. It really depends on yourself. But what are some like starting points that like a young person can think about? Is it followers? Is it subscribers? Is it money? Is it like the joy that the work brings you? So like, how can we start thinking about like milestones in our industry?
For me, I think like it's fairly simple, whether in traditional or new media. It's like, can I do the work that I love? Number one. And then can I get paid to do the work that I love? And that's very, very simple for me. It's a very simple philosophy. The money is great, but my lifestyle has not changed even when I made money. So I didn't buy anything. Then people always ask me, what do you buy or what? I didn't buy anything. Like, I bought a new CPU to play my games, but I didn't buy anything aside from that. I didn't buy a Rolex or a car. I love cars or whatever, but nothing much changed because for me, it's always just been about the love for the work. I love to host. I love to be in front of the camera. Yeah, so I don't know what your personal milestones might be, but for me, it was like, if I get to do this work and to be able to have enough for myself and my mom, I'm very happy already. But at the same time, my advice is I've always kept it at an arm's length. And what do I mean? Like I'm ready to if tomorrow this all ends, I'm okay.
Right.
I've always like tried to be real and a bit like cautious because I know that money, fame, and all of this commercial success could very easily be gone. So I think enjoy it, but at the same time, don't hold it too close because it may be gone tomorrow.
Yeah. So that brings me to my next question, because I think that especially, okay, so obviously we were kind of like that generation that grew up with like, oh, social media is new, it's fun, it's exciting. And then now we're at a point where like I would think that the next generation of creators, let's say, they will be looking at the industry and being like, okay, this is now a legitimate career. Like I'm going to be very serious about this. So there's kind of like this obsession with chasing numbers, right? I want to get like the followers and everything. So like, what is your opinion on that? Like, is it very important to get the followers? Like, and if so, like, how do you like manage that kind of like thinking?
I think followers is really secondary to, okay, if we are getting like business, right? Followers are secondary to branding.
Okay.
Yeah, I may not be the most followed male or whatever, right?
Okay.
Male influencer or whatever. But people or clients come to me because there is a general branding that they like. And I try and keep it very commercially safe. So I'm like happy, approachable, wholesome, that kind of image. Yeah. So when I was younger, I was like, when I get money, I'm gonna get 2 full sleeve tattoo because I like, want to look like a bad boy or whatever. Then after that, I'm like, that's not gonna help at like my brand, right?
Yeah.
So if we're talking about like really like, I think your branding is gonna be way more important than numbers because you can have a lot of numbers, but if people don't feel like they know you or connect with you, they're not gonna come. The clients will not come to you. The audience won't relate with you as well.
There's gonna be a lot of like identity formation when you're in your early 20s, right?
Yeah.
So like you're talking about personal branding, and if let's say someone wants to be in the public eye and they want to start thinking about like what my brand is, like what are things or questions that they need to ask or things to look out for to help them craft that image? Because here's the thing, like I can look at, let's say for example, I'll be like, oh, I like he's so funny, I want to be funny, but then what if I don't have that humor, right? So it doesn't really work that way. Or like I look at Ben King and say, oh, he can sing. I also want to be a singer, but I can't sing. So it's the kind of thing. So like, what are some questions or like things to look out for in order for me to maybe like craft my identity or brand, really?
Wow. Yeah. So I think a good starting place is like who you are. So, I never like, no one looks at themselves and think, hey, I'm funny, right? But then you realize if you're talking in a group, then people laugh at your jokes. I think you're funny. At least some people might think you're funny. So then you realize, okay, maybe I have a thing for that. So I can keep that ammo in my arsenal, right? Then you look at like for me, because I'm an only child, right? So I got no brother, sister to talk. So that's why I'm very good at talking to myself. I can put the camera here. I can talk for days because
Right.
I've just grown up talking to myself. But then like my other friends go like, how do you keep talking to yourself? Or like, how do you host when you're alone? These are things that I'm like, actually I can. So people will point it out to you, and then all you need to do is just take it and be like, let me utilize this, and this, and throw it back out there.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's say today, you know, you find out that you're good at something else, but then your brand is already so established.
Yeah.
Like, how do you navigate that? What are some pointers that you'll do?
Okay, so this one, like, actually, Joe would be the perfect person to give advice. But
Eh?
if I would ask him this question, so if I today suddenly say, hey, by the way, I think y'all don't know, right? I'm an amazing singer and dancer. I would ask Joe like, hey, how should I launch myself? Because I think you would plan an amazing campaign for it. But I personally would say, I very intentionally choose what I let out. So like, oh, people see my mother, they know, okay, Aiken and his mom, they're very close and blah 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 blah. But I think the key is after a while, what's next? What are you going to surprise your audience with? And that sort of shift things up as well. So don't show hand all the way. So for me, I've always known hosting, my mom, wholesome, whatever, like a few other things that I'm passionate about, food, all these things I know. But there's a whole bunch of other stuff that I also feel like are new possibilities that I haven't shown yet. And I'm very excited about that also.
Yeah. I mean, just to give my 2 cents, I do think like, for example, food, like creating a new like thing, a show and intellectual property is a way to do that, you know? So like, I mean, we talk about, so for example, like we do this show, this other show called I Have a Question, right? Which is like a current affairs kind of show.
Yeah.
And normally someone like Narelle wouldn't be able to talk about issues. She's a musician, she's an artist. And on her own platform, she can't really talk about like current affairs because it's just not her brand. You know, her brand is like music, right? Yeah. So I think like that's another way to look at it.
And like, hey, surprise, she's talking about politics and like, let's hear, right? Like,
Yeah. So that's one. Like now, as you say, like even though you're not a chef, right? But then you can your voice in food matters, you know. So
so really the possibilities are endless. Don't ever stop. Go and try. That's why like in your 20s, right? When you're single and you're like you don't have financial obligations, go and try and you will find out. Yeah. Because like for example, even when I became a host and an actor and a talent and all that, Sylvia was like, hey, I think you can sell. Then I was like, sell what? It's like sell the product lah. sell your show. Then I was like, really, man? And then I love being in sales, and I never knew that I could do that on a formal level, not in front of the camera. So really, like I just kept learning new things, but it all came with trying lah. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. I want to ask you, I know you said not to like reveal all your cards, but then maybe tease us a little bit. Like, are there any new things in the works, or like what's next kind of like in the upcoming months for you?
To be honest, right now I'm taking a break, which is great.
Oh, yes. Okay.
I love so I think another important thing to say is like, we work so hard in this industry and so fast. You've got to take those breaks because the breaks are the birthplace for the creativity.
100%.
I've never been more creative than when I'm inspired, when I'm running, when I have time to have space to think. So I've always been interested in music and more lifestyle stuff. I've always been interested in like social work, community, like work that impacts the community. So like there's just always different ideas like floating around. And then of course I'm always happy to do like comedy sketches, but like what would it look like if I didn't have to worry about anything and put out, you know, comedy on that kind of scale. So I love what like Ben and Annette have been doing because I totally find that hilarious. Like, and when I look at that, it makes me come alive. It makes me feel like, oh, that's maybe some of the content that I would love to create, that kind of thing. Yeah.
I'm gonna be singing.
I don't know. I really don't know. Yeah. So I sing in church only, like but I don't like I'm not like a recording artist. Right.
Yeah. I think I just might have just discovered one of the cards that you're hiding.
Maybe like suddenly like I drop an album, like collab. I don't know. It will be cool. Yeah, we'll see.
Nice. All right. So I think this is probably time for me to wrap up the episode because it's been quite a while. But before we go, Aiken, like where can they find you on social media? And if they want to find out your content, maybe music in the future, like where can they go?
Don't search me on Spotify. There's nothing there. You only see what I'm listening to.
For now.
Yeah, you can hit me up at Aiken Chia on Instagram. I'm primarily on Instagram and on TikTok. I'm on Aiken Chia also. And then of course, Night Hour Cinematics and Food King. Like, yeah, we're a bit on a break now, but we have 200 plus episodes for you to catch up on. So please go watch it and then go eat.
Very, very nice. All right. And if you guys want to listen to more episodes of the Next Level Podcast, it's all available on Spotify as well as Apple Podcasts. All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.